Welcome to the Voice of St. Anthony Parish from Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WROL 950 AM 100.3 FM. You can also hear us at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com and your favorite podcast platform. So let other people know where they can hear this and tell them, hey, you know, this has been a great interview. You got to tune it in over in the podcast. You'll hear what we heard over the air. Well, we're going to continue our conversation today with Father Patrick Fiorillo, who is the parochial vicar at St. Paul's Parish in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which makes him also the undergraduate chaplain of the Harvard Catholic Students Center, also over there, and also of the St. Paul's Choir School. So he's going to tell us a little bit more about his experience there, his podcast, and everything else. And we're going to finish our interview tomorrow, and then we're also going to go into our repeat of our talk with Alfred Mirra. So that will be tomorrow. But let's continue what he has to say to us today. You know, it's fascinating because you talked about how people just kind of dismiss Harvard as this very secular place and hostile and to like the people outside there. So, and I've had to correct some of the people I interview on exactly that attitude, because it's so true. People will say, well, this is Harvard, and just dismiss everyone from Harvard. And I've had to turn around and say, well, first of all, there's a Catholic center over there, and there are Catholics that go there and everything else, and people of other faiths. And you've just brought in a whole different side, where you've brought in the side from the students who themselves are in this very famous environment, and given us a perspective that many people do not understand. Yep.
So yeah, we got about 500 to 600 students, including graduate students, at masses each week.
Oh wow, that's fascinating.
Half undergrads, half grad students. So we are one of the bigger religious groups on campus.
Wow, that's fascinating. And so that must be a fascinating challenge for you to, as I know from my own experience over on this side of the Charles, to communicate the faith to in a way that's that is most understood by these people who are also understanding high levels of just about anything else.
Yeah, nothing slips by them in a homily, say, for example, as you find, and maybe at least in my experience in other parishes, certain things might easily go over people's heads if you get too theological, or maybe they just kind of might remember one kind of big point that stuck out from the homily, but it's happened here where you kind of maybe brush over something that's has a little bit of complexity to it, and thinking, no, and that's just a minor point, no one will worry about that. But then after Mass, someone will ask you about that. So, you do have to certainly speak intentionally and precisely. But that being said, I will say I always repeat the advice that was given to me probably on my first day here when I moved in. Our pastor, Father Bill Kelly, told me, because we were talking about this very phenomenon, like how do you reach students at such a high academic level when I myself am not. I never was. I
know that
can't
feeling.
Pretend to be. So, and his words to me were that our goal here is not to kind of match their intellect, because you won't. And so, and that's true. That's not really. Of course, we need to speak intelligently and logically and all that. But at the end of the day, we're here to bring the heart of Christ, which is not just an academic, endeavor, but just to show them, true charity and help form their hearts in that charity, that love of God.
And do you ever get any feedback on your homilies?
Yeah, fair amount. I mean, I guess people like it, I hope. I try to keep the message positive and challenging at the same time. And, obviously it's not that you avoid difficult issues, but there's a way of addressing things without difficult issues without being provocative, And I think as long as you do that, you're not going to get hostile responses or something like that.
Right. Well, even, as you say, I mean, if someone gives me any kind of feedback, they disagree, they agree, whatever, that's so important to us, because rarely does it happen. And I always say, yeah, anytime you want to give me feedback, I'd be happy to hear it. And if people disagree, sometimes I've sat down and talked with people, and we'll talk about what they disagree with or other things. But so that's really fascinating, your experience over there and of course you have other people who are not necessarily students. That's because St. Paul's is a territorial parish in Cambridge.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So that's about half the parish would be, in terms of mass attendees on Sunday. About half, roughly, would be students. So about 1,000 people total. So half students, and then half families who live in the area, come from surrounding towns. People who come because they love the liturgy, the sacred music that the choir school provides, and a lot of local young professionals who live and work in the Cambridge, Somerville area, Watertown, and all those surrounding areas.
Is there a mass that the choir school is always there?
Yeah, during the school year, so when the school is in session, they sing at the 11 o'clock Mass on Sundays. So we call that the solemn Mass. They sing with the boys, and then they're also accompanied by a professional choir of men who supply the lower voices. So it's a full choir sound every Sunday at 11 a.m. So people come from all over to that, and people have converted to Catholicism here from being inspired by and uplifted by the beauty of the music they provide.
Which, as I mentioned, is right. If I get this right, it's right on the corner of Bow and Arrow Street over by Mass Ave, or Mass Ave and Bow. I know there's a Bow and Arrow connection over there.
Yep.
And it's
Bow
not
and
far.
Arrow, and then Mount Auburn on one side and Mass Ave on the other side.
And not too far from the Hasty Pudding Club.
Exactly.
Yeah, I recorded. Let's see, the year Saturday Night Live. Of course, I'm 64, so Saturday Night Live got an award over there. I was at WMB at the time in the UMass. We were able to record Dan Aykroyd sounding like Jimmy Carter. And he did it. He was very happy to do that. You have a podcast too.
I do. The Harvard Catholic. Check it out.
How do we find that?
I started it. I think it's on all the major podcasting apps, and then also there's a site, Anchor, that you can watch it on our browser as well. It's linked through our website, harvardcatholic.org. But yeah, it's called The Harvard Catholic, and I started it a couple of years ago. Actually, several people suggested it to me, especially, it was a thing everybody was doing, but also that it's just a good way to kind of spotlight our broader community here. So I try to interview different people, interesting people who share their Catholic faith in some way connected to Harvard. And so, so just learning about all the different people that come through here and all the different facets of our parish life here at St. Paul's and the Harvard Catholic Center. So it's just an interview. I'm not a good interviewer, so I try to do as little talking as possible, and then I heavily edit out all my ums and ahs at the end. So it's not live, but thank goodness. But yes, so it's going well. There's been about maybe over a dozen episodes. I try to do every 1 to 2 months. I'll release a new episode, about half hour to an hour long.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you're doing this. I mean, I know from our experience, when you have someone who just does a lot of talking, that really helps. That's because that's what people want to hear. The guests, they don't want to hear us, so they want to hear you right now. They don't want to hear me.
Well, that's okay. You're much better at this than I am, so I'm happy to listen to you talk.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I've had the other side, too. When I was over working at WMB, I've had the one-word answers, and that is pure living hell, especially when you have to fill 30 minutes of live air. It is pure living hell. Yes, I've done that as well.
Well, I certainly don't do live for that reason.
I used to. I don't so much anymore. Although I've been able to. But you're right. It's better when you can record, when you edit and everything else. You're listening to the voice of St. Anthony Parish from Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WROL, 950 AM, 100.3 FM. You can also hear us at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. We'll be right back right after this. You can now leave a message for us, which we can air and discuss on this program. Just call 617-297-7452. That's 617-297-7452. 617-297-7452. Feel free to call, leave a comment, a question, or even feedback, and we may play it on the air. I can discuss your comment or question as well, so give that a try. 617-297-7452, 617-297-7452. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. And don't forget our own website, CatholicAudiomedia.com. And don't forget, you have a standing invitation to the 10 o'clock a.m. Mass here at St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. You can find us at stanthonyalston.org. That's stanthonyalston.org. Well, we're going to be back with the final part of our interview with Father Patrick Fiorillo, and then we're going to go into the next part of our repeat of our interview with Alfred Mirra. So tomorrow should be an exciting day as well. Tune us in 3 o'clock in the afternoon at WROL, 950 AM, and at CatholicAudiomedia.com. If you would like to support our program, please consider a donation to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. There are several ways to consider this. One is to purchase any of our merchandise, which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. There are coffee mugs there. There's also my latest book, Encounter Christ in Your Humanity, all of which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. You can also donate to the show directly through either the Donate tab, also at CatholicAudiomedia.com, or by sending a donation through the U.S. Postal Service with your questions and comments at 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. That's St. Anthony Parish, 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. Finally, the best way you can support our parish is to attend Mass on Sundays at 10 o'clock and be a part of our parish. We thank you for any support you would like to give to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts, the sponsoring parish for this media outreach to Catholics and other Christians in the WROL, WEZE, and podcast listening audience. In Cristo vivimos.